Semen retention, the energy that commands attention, the magnetic power of self-control. In every generation, there are a few men who seem to move through life with quiet command. They rarely raise their voices. They do not chase attention, yet people feel them when they enter a room. Their presence is steady, their gaze calm, their actions deliberate. What gives them that depth of power? At the center of it lies a forgotten practice. Semen retention, the art of mastering one's creative energy and turning it into focus, purpose, and confidence. Semen retention is often misunderstood. It is not a vow of repression, nor a denial of human nature. It is a discipline of energy management, an understanding that creative life force can be directed rather than drained. Ancient traditions called this essence ojas or jing, describing it as the subtle fuel that supports clarity, vitality, and magnetism. Modern psychology recognizes the same pattern through the science of dopamine balance and self-control. When a person learns to delay gratification, attention and drive return to the tasks that matter. When a man begins to practice retention, the first change he notices is in awareness. Desire no longer pulls him outward with the same intensity. The impulses remain, but they become opportunities for observation rather than orders to obey. That simple pause creates space, a space in which thought replaces reaction and choice replaces habit. Over time, that space becomes strength. Each moment of restraint forges a layer of willpower. Each decision to remain focused builds trust in oneself. Physically, this discipline has visible effects. Posture straightens, eyes grow clearer, and breathing deepens. The body reflects the inner balance of the mind. Psychologically, the reward system recalibrates. Instead of endless cycles of stimulation and crash, a sense of quiet satisfaction takes root. Motivation, once scattered, becomes linear. Energy that once escaped through indulgence now fuels ambition, study, creativity, and service. The deeper transformation, however, is not physiological but spiritual. Retention redirects awareness from seeking validation to cultivating presence. You begin to realize that attraction was never something you had to chase. It was always a byproduct of your inner state. When you radiate calm confidence, when your energy is grounded and self-contained, people notice. They sense stability in a world that constantly wobbles. Without trying, you embody the quality everyone subconsciously seeks: centeredness. This magnetism is subtle but unmistakable. It shows up in the way you listen instead of interrupt, the way you move without hurry, the way your eyes hold contact without aggression. Such presence cannot be faked, because it is built on actual energy coherence. Women and men alike respond to it instinctively. It communicates reliability, depth, and quiet power, traits that advertising cannot sell and posturing cannot imitate. Yet semen retention is not merely about attraction. It is about transformation. Energy that is held must flow somewhere, or it turns into tension. The practice, therefore, demands transmutation, converting desire into purposeful action. That might mean creating art, building a business, training the body, or helping others. Whatever the form, the principle is identical. Channel what could have been wasted into something that adds value to life. Suppression leads to frustration. Expression through creation leads to expansion. Over weeks and months, this disciplined flow of energy reshapes character. The mind becomes more focused, the emotions more even, the intentions more sincere. A man who once needed external approval finds fulfillment in the process of growth itself. This is not ego disguised as virtue. It is simply the recognition that inner order produces outer results. The more consistent the practice, the more visible the difference becomes, not just in productivity, but in serenity. Presence born of self-control also changes relationships. Interactions lose their undertone of neediness. Communication becomes cleaner, less performative. Genuine connection replaces subtle manipulation. People trust steadiness, they relax around it. When you are not looking to take energy from others, your very presence becomes a gift. The paradox of retention is that the less you seek to attract, the more attractive you become. You no longer generate magnetism through desire, but through wholeness. This inner gravity does not make one rigid. On the contrary, it brings sensitivity. When energy rises, perception sharpens. The senses awaken without obsession. Emotions deepen without confusion. Strength and sensitivity merge into harmony. That balance is rare in a culture that often confuses aggression with confidence or passivity with peace. True masculine energy is neither. It is calm potency, firm yet compassionate, focused yet flexible. History's great teachers understood this. Warriors, philosophers, monks, and inventors spoke of conserving creative power as the root of mastery. They saw that energy and awareness are linked. To waste, one is to weaken the other. Their achievements were not born from denial, but from direction. Modern men can apply the same principle without retreating from the world. Work hard, love deeply, but remain the master of impulse rather than its servant. The reward for such mastery is freedom. When you no longer live at the mercy of fleeting urges, your time and attention belong to you again. You can invest them in purpose, health, or service, whatever reflects your highest values. That freedom radiates outward as calm confidence. It is visible in posture, voice, and choice. It is the quiet statement that says, I control my energy. Therefore, I control my life. From that freedom arises a new quality of attraction. Relationships form not out of dependency, but resonance. The people drawn to you are those who sense the same authenticity you've cultivated. Bonds deepen because they are based on respect rather than escape from loneliness. The magnetism of retention thus becomes not only romantic, but universal, a gravity that draws opportunity, respect, and trust. As the practice matures, it becomes less about counting days and more about cultivating awareness. You begin to see every form of energy, attention, emotion, thought as sacred currency. You spend it consciously. The line between spiritual and practical dissolves. Both become aspects of the same discipline. Work becomes meditation. Meditation becomes work. Each breath, each choice, each interaction reinforces your command over your own life force. Semen retention ultimately teaches one lesson. Power is presence. The energy you hold defines the world you experience. When you scatter it, life feels chaotic and shallow. When you consolidate it, life feels meaningful and abundant. The same current that once drove distraction now fuels creativity, purpose, and compassion. You no longer chase success or love. You attract them by resonance, not pursuit. In the end, this practice is not about control for control's sake. It is about remembering that your creative essence is sacred. Every time you choose awareness over impulse, you reaffirm that sacredness. Every time you direct energy toward growth, you align with the deeper rhythm of life. The more you live in that rhythm, the more peace replaces struggle. Semen retention, then, is not a secret weapon or a mystical shortcut. It is a mirror reflecting the state of your consciousness. When the mirror is clear, desire and discipline no longer conflict. They cooperate. Energy flows upward through the spine of intention, illuminating thought, sharpening intuition, and awakening purpose. You realize that what you once sought in others' excitement, validation, fulfillment, was simply the reflection of the energy you already possess. That realization is liberation. You stop chasing experiences because you are already experiencing life fully. You stop chasing people because you finally meet yourself. And in that self-meeting, confidence ceases to be something you act out. It becomes your natural state. The world, sensing that wholeness, responds with respect. Opportunities unfold. Relationships deepen. Goals manifest with less friction. This is the magnetic power of self-control, not dominance, but harmony. Not suppression, but mastery. It is the art of living, charged yet calm, strong yet kind, driven yet peaceful. It is the understanding that true attraction begins when you no longer need to chase it. To master this is to master the most fundamental relationship of all, the one between your mind, your body, and your creative spirit. From that union comes everything else: clarity, purpose, love, and fulfillment. And so, the invitation is simple. Hold your energy, not in fear, but in reverence. Channel it into something that outlives pleasure, into growth, contribution, and truth. When you do, you will discover that the world no longer runs from you or toward you. It revolves naturally around the calm strength of your being. That is the true meaning of semen retention. Not abstinence, but abundance. The abundance of life that flows through a man who has learned to direct his own fire. Before we conclude, make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe and share to your dear one to the channel. And do not forget to drop your location in the comments. I love to know where you are watching from. And if you ever have any questions, join our Telegram channel where we interact directly and help each other grow. The link is in the description.